placing my Uber.
Wait, I can edit it, by the way. I'm going to.
Perfect. I'm also placing my Uber Eats order.
Did you already place it?
No, I'm in the process of it, but it's okay.
You want to finish placing it?
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right. Hello. Today we're here with Kelly Guzman. She grew up with parents that were divorced, and so we're here to talk to her to understand her experience and kind of what she went through and how it's impacted her today. Kelly, do you want to say anything else? Introduce yourself, give us a little background.
Yeah, so like she said, I'm Kelly Guzman. I am a child of divorce. And I'm currently a student at BYU, Idaho, at studying marriage and family counseling. So.
All right. So Kelly, how long were your parents married and how old were you when they divorced?
My parents were married for about 12 years and I was 11 when they split up and about 14 when their divorce was finalized.
And then how old were you when you like kind of understood and realized what divorce was? Did you kind of always have an idea and grew up with people around you with divorced parents, or like was that something that was a new concept to you with your parents?
No, like everyone at school, like most of their parents were divorced. It was really more weird for your parents to still be married more than anything. And I have had like aunts and uncles who have been divorced and remarried like several times before I was even born. And so I knew what divorce was probably my whole life, and I knew what step siblings and step families and half brothers and half sisters were like.
Okay, so you're already kind of familiar. It wasn't like something extremely new to you when you.
No, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, what's this? A thing that's happening I've never heard of before. Yeah, it was. I knew what it was, and plus, like, I feel like on TV and stuff they show like divorced parents and stuff. So
yeah, a lot of like television, like on Disney Channel and such, has like a lot of single family households growing up as well.
Yeah, like Reba. The whole intro is like a single mom who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops.
Was there like a time before the divorce your parents separated, or was like when the divorce happened when they separated?
So my mom was like constantly packing her stuff and my stuff up and going to my grandma's for like a few days at a time. Just to get away from my dad. And so they would, the longest I think they were ever separated because my mom like was like, we need to get out of here prior to the official separation that happened when I was 11 was probably like less than a week, maybe like 3 days.
Okay, and when did that start? When you're pretty young, the packing up and going to grandma's house? Like how
yeah.
bring that?
I don't necessarily remember when it started, but I do remember going to my grandma's and hanging out with her and my aunt and uncle who lived at home. Even after after my grandma died, we would still go to my aunt and uncle's.
Did you kind of like did you understand why your mom was like leaving your dad periods of time? Or were you confused, or like were you happy to go as well? Like how were your emotions and feelings at the time?
So at first I would say like a little confused because I didn't really understand what was happening, but the older I got, the more I understood and the more I wanted to leave as well with my mom. And it got to the point where I would start packing my bag before my mom like even said anything. And like I would also pack I remember, this is such a sad memory, but I remember packing my little Care Bear suitcase with tears in my eyes, plotting how I was gonna run away, just to not be in the house anymore.
With your dad then?
Yeah, with my dad.
Okay. And then after your parents got divorced, how was custody split? Like, what did the court decide?
I don't really remember what the court decided. But I think it was like 50-50, or like something like he got me like every other weekend and every other holiday and like half of summer vacation or something like that. But it didn't really work out that way. I ended up hardly ever seeing my dad, and the only time I ever spent the night at his house, or his apartment, I should say, was on Christmas Eve, which, like, we are a Latino family and Christmas Eve is so important, because we do not celebrate Christmas Day, we celebrate Christmas Eve. And so I spent that first Christmas Eve at his house, at his apartment, and I was so miserable because I was missing my cousins, and because my dad's an only child and there was like no kids my age or anything. I was missing my cousins, and my dad had a 1-bedroom apartment and no bed because my dad, this is irrelevant to the divorce, but my dad refused to sleep in a bed until about very recently. He only had a recliner. And so he bought like this like blow up air mattress and just put me like in a corner on the blow up air mattress on the cold tile floor. And I sobbed, and my dad like, and my mom like never made me go back and spend the night. So I would see him like maybe once a month for like a few hours, but I never spent the night again after Christmas Eve because that was horrible.
Was that like a decision you kind of made after that not to continue going back to your dad's overnight? Was that, did your mom make that decision, or is it kind of like a joint decision between the two of you?
I think it was even a joint decision between my dad because he never after that was like gunning for me to stay over. I think he could tell how like sad and miserable I was. Um and yeah, he never was gunning for me to stay over again. He never bought a bed for me to sleep in or anything. So I don't think he was really planning. And he never moved out. When he did move out of that 1-bedroom apartment, he moved into another 1-bedroom apartment. So it's like it wouldn't have been conducive to having me go over.
Okay. Did you ever feel like you got the proper help through professionals to deal with the divorce, or like how did you get any like therapy or anything like that?
I did not get therapy. I think I got maybe like 2 sessions with a therapist, because the first 2 sessions were free. And then after that, she started charging, and like my mom was a single mom, and money was tight. Because even though my dad was paying child support, he's on disability, so it wasn't like this huge amount, you know. So money was kind of tight. So my mom, I think I only went twice to therapy.
Do you think that would have helped you, have been beneficial if you had like a longer time going to therapy? Now that you're looking back at your childhood, do you feel like that could have helped you at all, or you think it was fine with the 2 sessions you got?
I had a lot of anger towards my dad, a lot of anger and like resentment because of because I knew that it was like his actions, his decisions that led to us being unhappy and led to my parents' divorce. My father suffers from pretty significant prescription pill addiction. And he's just not a fun guy to be around when he doesn't have his prescriptions. And so I I think I needed more help with like understanding my dad's role in my life rather than like the divorce, if that makes sense.
Yes, like what was your perception of what your dad's role is supposed to be and how is that
So
influenced?
like in like society and like TV and our church, you know, the man is supposed to be like the provider and the protector. Um, but he was the one I needed protecting from.
Were there times, you brought up church, was there times at church or school that you felt different from your peers because of the divorce and how everything was playing out, or did you feel pretty included?
So in my area, there are, like I said, there's a lot of like people who are divorced or who were never married to begin with and just broke up. So some of the kids like that I went to church with, their parents were divorced or broken up, but a lot of them, like their parents were married and they stayed together and they're still married. And I had a really hard time as well with like the teachings at church that like families are so important and they're supposed to be like together forever. I was like, well, my family's not together forever. That kind of sucks. My family's not even together here.
So, like, given what your childhood and things you experienced, like, what advice would you give to another child whose parents are going through a divorce or just getting divorced?
Um, if you're like, in my case, it was my mom, but like whichever parent gets custody, you give them a break. They're also going through a really difficult thing. They're going through the breakup of their marriage, you know. I don't think anyone goes into a marriage thinking like, can't wait to get divorced. So happy to go through this wedding just to get divorced later. And so that's also pretty like I would say like rely on like one or both of your parents because they're also going through something pretty tough in there. Probably like needing help and stuff that you can't really see or notice because you're like a kid and you're going through your own thing, and in your mind you're going through the worst thing imaginable. Nothing has ever been worse, nothing will ever be worse, and you're the only one in the world feeling this pain. No one understands, no one gets it. But that's not true. There's a lot of other kids who have gone through their parents being divorced, and your parents, again, it's not something that they ever probably planned for when they got married.
And then that's kind of advice you'd give to a child going through a divorce, but is there any advice you'd give to like parents who have children that are going through divorce, since you were in that position before? Like, what's something you wish your parents would have known or that someone else's parents would know before taking their child through a divorce?
So something that I really appreciate now, I didn't appreciate it in the moment, and I was like, why are you like defending him after all he did and after all he did to you? But my mom was very cautious of never saying anything bad about my dad in front of me. And if I were to say something bad about my dad, she'd be like, hold on, like he's your dad. Like he like maybe did some things that aren't good. And that, you know, maybe he's not proud of, maybe you're not proud of, that were very hard to take in. But at the end of the day, he is your father. You wouldn't be here without him. And he does love you. He just doesn't know how to express it in a way that you understand it. But he loves you very much. She just constantly was telling me how much my dad loved me, even if I didn't believe it. And was trying to make sure that my perception of my dad wasn't built around her perception of my dad.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any other advice or things you want to mention about growing up in a divorced household that would be beneficial for other people to hear?
Um, I think it's good to keep in mind that your parents' divorce has nothing to do with you. Because I didn't feel that this way, but I know that that's something that a lot of other children of divorce go through. They're like, oh my gosh, my parents split up. Like, was it something that I did? Could I have been a better kid? Could I have acted better? It truly has nothing to do with you. And it's everything to do with them and the relationship that didn't work out. And unfortunately, you just were brought into that. But it's not really anything to do with you because um, you're not the one in the marriage.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly, for your time and for your perspective of growing up in a divorced household.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.